by Yahoo Fantasy Football.
Yahoo!
Oh, that was good. I would like to require you to do that every time we do a Yahoo Fantasy Football read between now and August 3rd when their read is up.
Okay.
I am a fantasy football player, and I do prefer using Yahoo when we play fantasy football. We got away from it in the UCSS League last year. It was a terrible decision by Bull to leave Yahoo.
Going back.
I hope we go back to Yahoo.
Baby,
and I just got confirmation from Bull that we are going back.
We are going back to
Yahoo. You can fire up the group chat and get your draft boards ready. Buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins on August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That is yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet.
Can't wait.
All right, Mike, what are we getting to here?
Next up, ESPN put out its preseason roster rankings.
Oh,
now, we had done the PFF one in the past, where the Browns came in dead last. They were a little better in ESPN's ranking. They were 31st. But I didn't want to do, and I don't want to argue over. Should they be 33rd or 30th?
3rd.
29th. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
What ESPN did that was a little different than what PFF did was they broke down each team into different categories.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the categories that made up how they rank these rosters, and I want to know if you guys agree with ESPN or would go somewhere else. So the 4 categories they put in determining this, and this is less of a determination, more of just the 4 categories for strengths of the roster, weakness of the roster, X Factor, and a non-starter to know, a.k.a. a sleeper. So a sleeper on the roster. So before I show you what ESPN chose as the strength of the Browns, let me ask you, what do you think is the strength of the Cleveland Browns 2025 roster?
What position group?
Yeah.
That's easy.
Go ahead.
Defensive line. That's easy.
I don't know that it's easy.
I think one proven player.
Yeah, but he is the best at his position
hear you.
by far.
That's true.
I mean, if we go even projected best group or projected strongest group, it's still a defensive line. Myles Garrett is one of the best players overall
in the
NFL.
top 5 talent.
Right there. I mean, Mason Graham was drafted in the top 5. He should hit the ground running right away. Mike Hall, I know he's kind of like dealing with recovering from the injury, but you have him sitting right next to Graham and Myles Garrett, and then you have McGuire and Alex Wright on the other side. If you look at any other position group on this team, I can only assume that fans will feel more confident in their production versus anybody else's. Maybe the DB room, but I would go with the defensive line.
I would say I agree with you. It's not like easy to say that, but it's because of how talented Myles is, and because they added such a talent, I think, in Mason Graham to top 5 picks. So them, and then I don't know, it would be second. I wanted to say maybe running back, receiver.
Before the Judkins situation, I was feeling good about the running back.
I was too.
But I'm going to disagree with you guys and go offensive line. I got more proven talent on the offensive line than I do on the defensive line. I know they struggled at times on the offensive line, and they're older, and they dealt with injuries. But when it's all said and done, Jack Conklin still had a good year. Joel Bitonio was really good in the second half. Wyatt Teller is still really good. And we're doing some projecting, right? If we're gonna say the defensive line, it's all projection outside of Myles Garrett. So I love the fact that the big fella at left tackle lost a crap load of weight. I think it gives him a better chance to stay healthy. And we've seen that when he's healthy, he's a good player. So I'm going to go with the offensive line. I think the defensive line could be, but I think the offensive line has more proven players. So I'm going to go with the offensive line. I think that's maybe a shocking one.
Yeah, but one of those proven guys, this is probably his last year. So
Right, but we're just talking about this year.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, going forward. Yes, I feel yes, the defensive line has more upside than the offensive line. I'll give you that. But I think that who's the other starting end for the Browns?
TBD. ESPN. I'll give you the answer.
Yeah.
Then I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah.
Got a little more specific than Dustin and Earl, but they
Yeah.
agreed with Dustin and Earl. They
Yeah.
said the biggest strength was edge rusher. And I quote, 4-time All-Pro in 2023, DPOY Myles Garrett carries the group, having posted 60-plus pass rush wins and 12-plus sacks in 5 consecutive seasons. The depth isn't as strong as it has been in years past, but there are plenty of candidates for significant work, including Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire, JTS, and Julian Okwara.
The great Julian Okwara.
Can't forget about Julian Okwara.
Yeah.
So
All right.
with that information,
Yeah.
Dustin and Earl, they took defensive tackles out of the equation. If it was just the edge rushers, would you say edge rusher or offensive line's a bigger strength?
Edge rush.
I'm still going. I'm with Dustin. That's Myles Garrett. Like,
It's so funny because they have nobody else you're sure about. And yet Myles Garrett's so good that it just overcomes.
I kind of agree with him, too. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Biggest,
Yeah. That's
biggest
fine.
weakness. What do you think ESPN went for the biggest weakness of this Browns roster?
quarterback.
Linebackers.
Ooh, 2 different answers. Bull, what are you going to say?
I mean, linebacker, they have really nothing proven. Quarterback, they have nothing proven. Running back, they have nothing proven. I mean, Jerome Ford's proven he's okay.
I mean, I would have said quarterback, but it's just such an easy answer. It's like
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit with the Browns.
Well, but we're trying to guess what they're saying, so.
Yeah, it's going to be linebacker or quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Earl on this one. I'm going to say quarterback also.
You guys are correct. ESPN went with the quarterback position. Quote, they say if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you have 0. So what if you have 4? Cleveland will roll out the rare full-on competition between 4 underwhelming candidates. Joe Flacco, 40, journeyman Kenny Pickett, 3rd-round rookie Dillon Gabriel, and 5th-round flyer Shedeur Sanders. Perhaps one of the rookies will be a gem, but frankly, it's hard to see much upside.
It's
For
a lot of-
ESPN, Stan,
lot of
that's pretty harsh.
encouraging sentiments there.
Who wrote this?
Who
one?
wrote
Mike
that?
Clay.
Mike Clay?
Mike Clay's a fantasy guy.
Well, they had Mike Clay, Seth Walder.
Oh, they all contributed their part.
Jeremy, yeah. So that was his part.
All right. He's not a Shedeur believer or a Dillon Gabriel believer, obviously.
5th round
Or
flyer.
a Flacco believer or a Kenny Pickett believer.
Yeah, he's not a believer. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can be a believer in Kenny Pickett or even Flacco at this point, like in terms of long term. But okay, go ahead. What's next?
X Factor.
Ooh.
Now this. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to give you anything of what ESPN said. I'm curious where you guys would go
All
for
right.
X Factor.
X Factor.
Now, is
And
it
they
a
did not
position
repeat.
group?
They
No,
did
he's not gonna give us
repeat
anything.
Yeah.
What's
Just- it's
what
not
for
a
you is the X Factor to success for the Browns?
Like, is it a position group X Factor?
You don't want to tell us, right?
I want to see what you
just gotta come up with your
pick
answer,
what you
however
want, and
you
I'll
see
give
it.
you
I mean,
ESPN
it's
answer.
vague. Like, is the
It
X
is vague.
Factor a
It's
player
vague, but
or
do
is
the
it a
best you can.
position
Go
group?
ahead. Maybe Dustin can lead the way here on this. Go ahead. Give us a clue.
Kicker.
Kicker.
It's a great answer.
Kicker.
Dustin Hopkins was great 2 years ago. Was atrocious last year.
Their kicking game was atrocious. Good punter. The
Yeah.
kicking game was atrocious.
He got a contract, too.
He got paid.
Got paid.
Why you'd ever pay a kicker, I have no
Got
idea.
paid.
But never draft a kicker, never pay a kicker.
The Browns pay people like what are they? The Bobs in Office Space. It's
Yeah.
like the less you do, the more you get.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
All right,
It's
so
bizarre.
it's unbelievable.
if I had to go player, I'm going to
Yeah.
go Cedric Tillman. I think that we seen last year that we can trust Jerry Jeudy to go out here and be productive and ball out. And if Cedric Tillman can stay healthy, I think, it was a small sample size, but when he
Yeah.
was given the opportunities to show what he can do, he took full advantage of those opportunities. This dude came into the league with an NFL-ready body already. And if you looked at him in a few times that he was out there for minicamp, he looks leaner, which means he's probably faster than he was before. This is his 3rd year in the NFL. I'm pretty sure he's worked on the route running. The hands is there. He got big playability. If he can be as productive as Jerry Jeudy, then the Browns got more at wide receiver than we believe we do.
So I said the X factor for me was the kicker, and I was kind of like tongue in cheek in that a little bit because I always rip on the Browns kicking situation.
Yes.
But honestly, this year I do think it is going to be an important factor because we just said the biggest weakness on the team is quarterback. Okay, that's the most important position, especially for the offense. We know that points are going to be at a premium for this offense, and so if we think the Browns are going to have any chance to do anything this year, you're going to have to get points when you get inside those opportunity areas of the field where you can make those kicks. That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we said that the greatest strength of this team is going to be the defensive pass rush, which means the defense is going to have a chance to make some plays this year. So if the Browns want to make the playoffs or try to make the playoffs or just be relevant this year, they're going to have to get points every time they get inside, get across the 50 and have a chance to get points. They need their kicker to be excellent.
Yep.
And they need their defense to play really well. So if all those things play out, my prediction is going to be very important.
You know, the last 2 years, the Browns had a surprisingly great year and then a horrible year, right? Mm-hmm. In the surprisingly great year, their defense was great. In their awful year, their defense was, I'll say, above average last year. So it was a big, and we talked a lot about that. Their offense was not really that much, like their offense wasn't good either year. It was worse last year, but it wasn't good either year. But what we kind of forget about is the kicker. 2 years ago, they won a bunch of close games because their kicker made a lot of big field goals. Mm-hmm. Last year, they lost all the close games because their kicker sucked. So, yeah, that could be definitely an X factor. But to me, the biggest X factor is the same I gave for the weakness, and that's the rookie quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. A lot of people think neither one of them is going to be any good. Some people think Shedeur Sanders is going to be good. I guess some people think Dillon Gabriel is going to be good. I personally think Shedeur Sanders has a better chance of being good than Dillon Gabriel, but I don't know. We'll see. So I'll say both of them are the X factors because if one of them turns out to be a good quarterback, well, we've seen how a rookie quarterback can turn around, a good rookie quarterback can turn around a franchise more than anything else. So that's my X factor.
You're the closest, Bull, but I intentionally didn't give you guys a ton of information on this one because they went against the grain of how they'd been doing this. Mm-hmm. ESPN's X Factor for the Browns this season is, quote, the entire rookie class. Cleveland is not a contender in 2025, so the Browns' focus should be on developing their young players into starters or hopefully even stars. The highest upside spot is with Gabriel and Sanders. The sooner one of them pushes Flacco or Pickett for playing time, the better. But the quarterbacks are long shots, and this philosophy extends to the rest of the class as well. Can Mason Graham be a stalwart of this defensive line for years to come? Do they have a successor to Nick Chubb? These questions matter more than wins and losses for the Browns this season.
Plus Schlesinger taking over JFK's spot, plus Harold Fannin maybe taking over for Njoku if he walks as a free agent after the season. I do think it's there's a lot of opportunity for the Browns rookies. Obviously, it's the first time they've had a first-round pick in a while, and they have a lot of guys. Unfortunately, Judkins now not being one of them. We thought he would be. They have a lot of guys. Well, I guess now Dylan Sampson has the opportunity to be an impact player right away, where he wouldn't have probably if Judkins was here. So
I thought he would have had an opportunity to be an impact player even with Judkins in the fold.
That's fair, but he'll have more of an opportunity.
It's more of an opportunity
yeah.
now, but when I look at it, me and Spencer did a show on the radio Saturday, and we were talking about Mason Graham, and I say, man, one of four drafted that high since '95. He can't just be good, Spencer. You got to be great. Like, he can't just be good. Mason Graham has to be great. And again, this can be homerism. I'm optimistic. I think Mason Graham is a damn good football player. Like, we talk a lot upstairs after we get finished with the show, and before the draft, me and Mike was playing around. I think ranking our top 5, 6 overall players, and I had Mason Graham in my top 5. I think he's that good of a player, and it'll be interesting to see how this entire class play out. Carson Schlesinger is a guy that I think that's, we talk about Dillon Gabriel flying under the radar. Mm-hmm. This is another guy that's flying under the radar, and by people who's really had their eyes on him. He's gritty, he's hungry, he plays with a high motor, and he's very intelligent and more athletic than what people give him credit for. So we'll see.
Yeah, you were on our podcast yesterday. You were talking about how much you like Mason Graham, and you think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, it's hard for a defensive tackle to make a huge impact immediately, or at least a noticeable one like that
Unless
we
you
can
play
see
next to
because it's
Myles
not
Garrett, maybe?
stats, but
Glad you corrected that yourself because
Yeah.
it's not that he can't make an impact
Right.
quickly because he can and I think he will.
Yeah.
But it's those impact plays that all of a sudden when he's pushing two guys into the quarterback's lap, and you're
Right,
like,
yeah.
holy shit. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Aaron Donald type of plays.
Right, yes.
That you did not typically see from a defensive tackle in a long time. I hope that we see some of that. It's going to be hard to replicate what Donald did because he's
Yeah.
a freak of nature. But like, I think he's going to allow Myles Garrett to make a lot of plays. And he's gonna be a garbage man in there. Like he's gonna do a lot of the dirty work that you're not even gonna talk about, but it's gonna allow other guys to make plays. And where you'll notice it will be the post game press conference when all those other guys who are getting all the accolades are praising Mason Graham for setting him up.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, Earl, he's got to be a star. I mean, I'm not saying he's got to be a star immediately, but if he doesn't become a star, a perennial Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, it's a bad pick.
Yeah.
You draft a guy in the top 5, no matter who it is. If that guy has not become a perennial Pro Bowler at worst, it's a bad pick. So
I was just looking at their depth chart. we didn't really talk. I think the one free agent move they did make, Malik Collins, that plays defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be good for Mason Graham and for Mike Hall. But I'm curious, Dustin, because you talk about what Mason Graham can bring. We saw flashes of it, right, when Mike Hall was available last year. Another dude, like explosive off the line of scrimmage, real high motor. I'm curious to know what you think about just that trio, Myles, Mason, and Mike Hall, the potential of what that can bring to us when all of them is available to us.
Well, if all those guys are clicking, I think you'll definitely have a chance to have a special group. That's why you said they're the group that you feel most confident about. And I would agree. I think those guys, all three of them, can be really good players. I'm excited about Mason, obviously. There's something to be said about a guy who was a 2-time All-American at Michigan, powerhouse, Natty, Harbaugh, all those. Like, you just got to be a special guy to do all the things that guy did. If you said at the end of the day, what are the chances he's going to be a bust? Sure, there's a chance. I'd say it's very, very low, like 10%. Like, I think he's a good, like, he'll be a starter in this league, a really good starter, I think, for a while. Mm-hmm. I think there's a chance he could be a great player, and there's a chance he can. Maybe it's a 20% chance, but that's a high chance that he could be like a gold jacket guy. You know what I mean? You're a top 5 pick.
That's what you're hoping for. All right, Mike.
Well, you mentioned a starter. There's the last category. It is the non-starter to know for this season. Who do you think ESPN chose as the non-starter on the Browns to know?
I'm not 100% sure he's a non-starter, but I think he is. And if that's the case, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's Dillon Sampson. I mean, if we're looking at Jerome Ford as the starter right now, which I think we are, that's the guy to know, because right now, with Judkins not in the picture, you have 2 backs. And we've seen Jerome Ford. He's not terrible, but he's just a guy. And so Dillon Sampson, who was a great player in college, it seems like he's got a lot of upside, and now he's going to have even more opportunity without Judkins. So to me, he's the name to know, because who knows? I mean, he could end up being a 1,000-yard back this season, depending on when or if Judkins plays this year.
Harold Fannin, for me.
I'm going Zach Zinter for me.
So, Zach Zinter.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talk about the offensive line.
Yeah.
That group is getting up there in age.
Yes, they
Wyatt
are.
Teller and Joe Bitonio at the guard position. They make a lot of money. Andrew Berry drafted this kid. This is another year under his belt. I just think that's a non-starter to watch for. And hopefully he can make some noise. And if he does, who knows?
All right, who did they go?
I like all 3 of your answers better than what ESPN put. They put Mohamed Diabate. Quote, we expect new addition Jerome Baker to start ahead of Diabate, but the 2023 undrafted free agent was surprisingly productive in 2024. Baker made his average run tackle after a gain of 2.7 yards, which ranked 4th best among qualifying linebackers. That's why we think Diabate will be a backup. However, he's incredibly well-ranged in pass coverage and graded highly in DVOA, adding 7 pressures on blitzes as well. He could be a breakout candidate for the Browns this season.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
I
I
assume
mean,
he was
it's
gonna
as
start.
good as all the ones we said.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do that. We're going to move on to something else,
Yeah.
and then we got a game to wrap up today's show. But
Okay.
a